All right, you guys, I don't know if you're ready for this. I'm ready for this, I think. It's gonna be pretty awesome. Hey fiddlers, welcome to today's Fiddle Focus video. Today we're getting into a topic that I think is gonna revolutionize your fiddle playing. Unless you already know how to do it, so in that case, more power to you. We're gonna be talking about how to emphasize the offbeat in reels and hornpipes. Why should we emphasize the offbeat, you ask? Good question. The answer is, it sounds cooler. That's about it. Here's what a tune sounds like when you're not emphasizing the offbeat. Here's what it'll sound like with the emphasis on the offbeat. You hear that kind of groovy pulse? That's what I'm talking about. This is a topic that my Patreon patrons voted for, and if you would like to vote on topics for my future videos, you can do that at the link in the description. At that link, you can also get sheet music and practice tracks for the tune we're featuring today, King of the Fairies, as well as a whole bunch of other fiddle tunes. Plus sheet music for the exercises that we're going to talk about today that help you emphasize the offbeat. All right, you guys, I don't know if you're ready for this. I'm ready for this, I think. It's gonna be pretty awesome. Okay, first of all, what the heck is an offbeat? When you're playing a tune that's in 4/4 time, that means 4 quarter notes per measure, we kind of have these 4 beats in the measure that we're thinking about. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The downbeat is usually the 1 and the 3 of 4/4 time. So it would go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The offbeat then would be the 2 and the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we're going to emphasize the offbeat, we want to emphasize the 2 and the 4. Very often with fiddle tunes, we take those 4 beats and we divide them up into 1/8 notes. So we're really going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If we emphasize the downbeat, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But that's not what we're doing. We're way too cool for that, as we've established. So we're going to emphasize the 2 and the 4. We're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can do the same thing with hornpipes. So hornpipes are usually a little bit more swingy. They have this dotted rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So basically you're just going long, short, 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 long. So for hornpipes, if we're going to emphasize the downbeat, we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But if we want to be ultra cool, we're going to emphasize the 2 and the 4, the offbeat. So it's going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now we've established where the offbeat is in reels and hornpipes. So let's talk about how do we actually create an emphasis? How do we make those notes have a little extra oomph? One general rule of thumb is that your down bow is a little bit of a stronger bow than your up bow. Just naturally it feels that way. You can emphasize up bows, it's just a little more challenging. For the rest of this video, whenever we're playing an accent, it's going to be on a down bow. So there are 2 main factors that I think about when I try to accent a note. The first is bow weight and the second is bow speed. So let's talk about bow weight. I like to think of it more as weight than pressure because the idea of pressure kind of implies tension and we want to stay really relaxed. What we're thinking about here is leaning a tiny bit on our pointer fingers to transfer the weight of our arm into the bow. So what you want to try doing is leaning on that bow, letting your arm really relax, and then you can create a really loud sound. And become really popular with your neighbors. When you lean on that pointer finger, the bow kind of bites into the string a little bit more. Here, take a look at this. See how the stick is getting closer to the bow hair? So if we want to emphasize the offbeat, we want that weight on the 2 and the 4 of each measure. So it'll sound something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Or for hornpipes, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you know I emphasize emphasize this a lot, but a really helpful thing is to have a very relaxed arm. So you have all that weight from your arm available to transfer into the bow. All right, so that is bow weight. Let's talk a little bit about bow speed. As a general rule, moving your bow faster and covering more territory in a really short amount of time is going to create a little bit more of an accent. So instead of going, you're going. It's a little startling. So if we're emphasizing the offbeat, again, we're going to be putting that longer, faster bow onto the 2 and the 4. So this is what it'll sound like. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Or in a hornpipe it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So let's take a small section of King of the Fairies and we're just gonna play it with that offbeat accent using separate bows. 1, 2, 3. You might have noticed that we run into a little problem when we use that bow speed to create the accent, which is we run out of bow. Because that longer bow is always a down bow, moving us closer and closer to the tip. But don't worry, there's a solution to this problem. Let's talk about how we can use bowing patterns to help us create that emphasis without running out of bow. There are 2 bowing patterns I want to focus on for this. The first one is called Georgia Shuffle, and the second one is 3-3-2. If you've seen my other videos, you might be familiar with this. You can check out my real bowing workout, which goes into both of those as well as some other stuff. When we use the Georgia Shuffle, what we're doing is we're using a down bow for that accented note, the 2 and the 4, and all the other notes are going to be on an up bow. So it'll sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That way we can use as much of a big, fast, accented down bow as we want, and we're going to make up for that by slurring all the other notes on an up bow. So let's start out on an up bow slur. 1 and here comes the 2, which is where we want that down bow. And we can go all the way to the tip if we want. And then we're going to go on an up bow for the next 3 and 3 and then down bow for the 4. And then we slur the next 3 again. And from here on, we're just slurring 3 and then 1 down bow. That works well for hornpipes as well. Alright, so let's take that section of King of the Fairies we were trying out earlier, and we're going to try adding Georgia Shuffle to it. So we're going to go like this. 1, 2, 3. So that Georgia Shuffle pattern is helping us to accent the offbeat. The other bowing pattern that's going to work pretty well is 3-3-2. In the 3-3-2 bowing pattern, you take 8 eighth notes, so 1 measure, and you're going to play 3 separate notes, 3 slurred, 2 separate. Here's what I mean by that. In 1 measure, we're going to go. So it's down, up, down, up, down, up. The down bow on either side of that slur is going to be the 2 and the 4. Here's what I mean by that. So we're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we just continue on that pattern. So it would go like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If we're doing a hornpipe, it would sound more like this. All right, let's take that tiny little phrase from King of the Fairies and we're gonna play it with 3-3-2 bowing. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. One of the issues that we're going to run up against in our tunes is that it's not always just a string of eighth notes. So those bowing patterns are going to have to change up a little bit depending on where there are quarter notes in the tune and that sort of thing. But once you know those patterns, you can start to apply them in little sections of the tune, and that combined with an overall sense of that groove, that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, is going to give you that overall offbeat emphasis. Okay, so how do we practice this? There are 2 different things that I would suggest. The first thing you can do is you can practice just some simple exercises. I'm gonna play through some of those right now, and if you want sheet music for it, you can get that at the link in the description. I'm gonna set the metronome to 100. So we're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And first off, we're going to use separate bows, and we're going to start a little bit closer to the frog because we don't have the help of those long slurred up bows to keep us in the middle of the bow. 1, 2, ready, go. All right, let's try the same thing, but we're going to do Georgia Shuffle. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. And lastly, let's try 3, 3, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. The other way to practice is really just to go through a tune that you're playing and think about where the 2 and the 4 are. It can help to actually write in accents into your sheet music. And if you want a version of King of the Fairies with those accents written in, you can find that at the link in the description too. Then when you're going through that tune, just try to give those notes a little extra something. You can use bowing patterns, or if you're using separate bows, just remember that idea of using a little more weight on the bow and using a little more bow speed. All right, you guys, that wraps up today's fiddle focus video. I hope you had fun. I had fun. I always have fun. Again, if you'd like to vote on topics for my future videos, you can do that by becoming a patron of mine at the link in the description. At that link, you can also get sheet music and practice tracks for the King of the Fairies, the tune that was featured today, as well as the sheet music for the exercises we talked about today. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. Happy fiddling, have a wonderful day, and I will look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, guys.